Good morning. I hope everyone is doing well today. I am Dan Sapinosh, Director of Shopper Marketing for Great Northern Instore. Um, I'll start a few introductions as we hit the top of the hour and as people are logging in. Great Northern Instore is a designer and manufacturer of retail displays and merchandising, from temporary corrugated applications to semi-permanent and permanent wood, metal, wire merchandisers as well. Um, we're very pleased, and I always love to start with our mission as a company, which is to help others win, help our customers win by doing what others can't or won't. Um, Always a great thing like this is one of those parts of that where we love to get out there into the field and see what the latest and greatest trends are so we can help provide those insights to our customers and to you to help our latest and greatest retail activations find success and help our clients stand out in the busy retail marketplace. A couple of things with the GoToWebinar tool. Please utilize the box at the bottom to ask questions or kind of see if you have any technical difficulties or issues as it goes along. I might, as the last session had some internet challenges that kind of got me out of place and out of sync with what the audience was seeing. So please utilize that to kind of prompt me if I'm talking ahead of what you're seeing, or just in general, if you have any questions through this. We'll be about 45 minutes today, and definitely ask questions. We'll definitely have time at the end to, I'll do my best to answer anything that is there. You'll get an email later this afternoon thanking you for attending. And with that email, you can respond with any feedback or additional questions or requests for any of the content. Also, in case there's a challenge, one of the things I've noticed is the audio seems to be a lot more solid on the connections. There is a handout in the handout section of the GoToWebinar that has the deck, a little lower resolution and without the videos. But in case we get into some challenges, you can download that and we can proceed and continue to go through the content. All right. With that, we'll start to dive in and keep the fingers crossed that everything continues to go seamlessly. EuroShop, just as a quick introduction, this is a huge show, retail's largest show in the world, that takes place only once every 3 years. So we sent a team of 4 people to Germany. It's held in Dusseldorf at their convention center there, which is one of the 10 largest convention centers in the world, larger than anything here in the United States. And just a phenomenal show to see there. For those of you that have been to Global Shop, this show is literally 10 times larger than Global Shop in terms of the square footage, number of exhibitors, and number of attendees. While we were there in Europe and made the voyage, we also stopped off in London to see some additional retail stores and kind of get the latest trends from both Dusseldorf and London of some things that we don't normally see here in the United States. So I'll be highlighting some of those features as well that we saw. All right. And as I notice, we, let's see. We've tied a little bit at the end of the video, so I'm gonna not play the transition videos as we go along, moving forward, just to keep the webinar moving along. But as I'll say, the Dusseldorf Convention Center, a gigantic place. It literally has 18 buildings that we walk through in 3 days, from the top of the morning till around 6 o'clock in the evening each day, and definitely saw a lot of great trends and ideas that were there. Now, just to be, I'll ask the question out there of anybody that can pop in. Are you seeing just right now kind of an old uh, building exterior on your screen at the moment? Because I see that's what I think you guys are seeing rather than one of the slides afterwards. And if anybody can just pop that into their questions part or in the chat section, that'd be much appreciated, just to make sure I'm there. Great, thank you. So you do see a map of the show. Beautiful. So one of the things we looked for and definitely saw were unique items throughout the show to find those different things. And without a doubt, being a retail show, one of the things is that retail is not dead, as they would state. And I won't necessarily say step in the fantasy, but we definitely saw a lot of great stuff and great trends that are out there. As we had when we visited the show 3 years ago, we saw many things that were new and innovative and really started to get to the US market probably about a year and a half, 2 years later to begin trickling in. So kind of exciting to be there and see that. And as mentioned, we stopped in a few different stores in London, Boots, Liberty of London, that provide some additional inspiration and see how some of the trends may have been applied in that market. So overall, it was a very inspirational show, and it was all about seeing that. And what we were able to do as a team is build this into 7 key trends that are what I will go through with you. So the first trend was all about materials, fits, finishes, and patterns. So one of the biggest things that we saw was more and more usage of multiple materials, particularly on the permanent end, the combination of woods and metals, as you see in these 3 different activations, whether that's kind of more the booth itself or whether a couple of permanent fixturing items where wood, metal really create this really industrial type of look, but also a bit an authentic look, kind of with the natural flavor that wood provides. Another example where, again, this booth kind of utilized that barn wood, but with then laser cut metal pieces to really, again, create this just rustic industrial type of look. And interestingly, we were seeing just the beginnings of this there. Many places were utilizing this burnt wood as well. So really enabling that, still having that natural element of wood, but really that dark charcoal gray aspect to it that really can look slick when kind of paired up with other materials or a pop of color that really helps set it off. Also out there, we saw a lot of different finishes for metal. Again, particularly looking at in the permanent areas of things. And hopefully it will pop up in a second if it hasn't already, is this beauty display that instead of just a plain powder coat, in this case pink, which stands out in its own right, they also had glitter applied in that finish to really give it a shimmer and a shine and something differentiated. So it was really almost a matte pink, and the glitter just provided that depth and feeling to the activation. The next example was a small little bin with that was made out of plastic, but again, the feature that we really honed in on was the powder coating of the metal stand for this bin, which was, again, really had these layers of depth where it was a dark gunmetal gray, but was reflective in nature that really enabled it to pop and shine and shimmer with the elements around it. So again, it's really thinking about and being out of the box instead of using plain grays or dark or blacks or etc. But what are some of those different textures and finishes that can really help your activation stand out? The next picture actually was another strange one, but again, in this metal finishing was a process very organic in nature where the metal would begin to rust underneath the finish to create this fanciful random pattern. Again, not a very controllable and a very process as we talked with the booth, but a very organic feel, something different that definitely, again, helps the activation stand out. And then not just finish, but just the use of patterns. So this was a molded pulp example on the side of a booth, but we would see similarly throughout the show activations that used laser cut metal or other various substrates that were cut into textures, into patterns to really, again, create that richness of this. In this case, these tubes that were lit with LED lights and really, again, laser cut metal that ended up again creating that sense of dimension and richness. And another example on a booth wall of just even triangles, but just this idea of standing out with pattern. And on the next couple of slides, I want to highlight what we saw at retail. So this was a grocery store in Dusseldorf, Germany. Obviously, the standard metal wire gondolas there, but between at each meter section, they had this wood that created a bit of division to help separate the different categories or different product lines, making it a little bit easier and manageable to shop than one long run. But again, it's creating that more authentic look with both the woods and metals combined. And then this display at Liberty of London, again, utilizing that rustic wood, almost barnwood natural to merchandise the sunglasses over an industrial metal cabinet that obviously holds additional stock. At Harrods in London, again, that die cut, laser cut metal, in this case, a shimmery brass, patterns, Liberty of London, in this case, it's not, obviously they're well known for their fabrics. So utilizing that as the backdrop, particularly effective on these solid colored products, handbags and luggage that really helps provide that depth and helps the solid merchandise pop. And then even materials authentic like real leather on this display table at Liberty as well. So wrapping up trend one, it's all about finish, creating depth, using textures that all creates these layers that really connotate quality. The next trend I want to dive into is green. And, you know, as much as we walked the show, there wasn't a particular color that was like, ooh, this is the color of the show. We saw the various rainbows. But what was interesting, I think green was one that maybe stood a little bit ahead of the rest, but in particular for its use and connotation of fresh and sustainable. So diving into that, and I didn't necessarily want to show the video, but I think I bounced back. Again, it's utilizing the idea of greens for fresh, sustainable look and feel is that trend that we are going to talk about now. So as that probably bogs down the airways a little bit, I apologize, hitting the wrong way on the slide. But the image that should come up in a second is of a merchandiser that, again, a permanent merchandiser with metal, utilizing both some of the dark black metal as well as woods, as we talked about. But in this case, utilizing the shelving and the racking is all powder coated with a bold lime green to really help again pop. It's kind of really was one of those looks we saw around the show, was the combining those couple of natural elements and then with a singular bold color statement to create pop. And then as we went through, we would see things as well, corrugated manufacturers highlighting the fact that they're green for their displays, using lichen in their booths and on some of their displays to really connotate natural and sustainability. A booth that was selling corrugated mannequins as a replacement for plastic and the sustainability of that. And then a lot in Europe, a lot of utilization of these wood displays that quickly assemble almost like a three-dimensional puzzle. In this case, Fused Tea really using some nice elements of staining some of the wood with the green color, highlighting the natural ingredients that's in their product. This manufacturer of wood displays, and this is more for retail fixtures, literally would use bark. So on the sides of that, they literally would take tree bark and size, fit it, tailor it, select it for the particular display applications. Much more on a smaller scale likely, but again, very interesting of that green nature. We would see displays as well as you walk this show around retail about literally displays, in this case, having the top part being able to grow herbs and then selling them on the shelves below, kind of all connotating that whole green environmental, locally sourced. And then even a whole booth from a manufacturer that utilizes bamboo as their raw material. Again, the whole sustainability nature of it. And again, utilizing the color green and staining the product to really make that connotation come to life. And finally, a booth that highlighted their grocery fixturing, but again, utilizing these green walls and then calling it out about natural and what this all brings and creating that entire fresh, natural theme for the whole department. And seeing it in store in this leather shoe store, again, utilizing that lichen wall to highlight the sustainability. And as much as we would see it in the authentic materials, but interestingly, here was a seed display that was actually printed corrugate to look like that wood, and utilizing again the product itself to highlight and provide those green elements in the header card, the imagery of the plants that would grow from the seeds. Even in Harrods, a smart herb garden that can connect up to your smart home, again, utilizing those bold images of the actual plants, the basil growing. In Marks and Spencer in London, a display, again, black, slick, but utilizing those small elements of the green highlights on the top header, highlighting fresh and what's fresh at their store. And then this daffodil display, as mentioned, they use a lot of these wood displays throughout Europe from that sustainability that it's there, it's a permanent display, but from natural materials, in this case, selling daffodils. So trend 2, all about green, sustainable, fresh. But even if your brand isn't green or that's not the direction you're going, what I'll say is a key lesson is the little cues matter. Think about the colors, what they can represent subconsciously to your shopper. Think about the key little elements that are all about conveying your story. Trend 3 was all about modular. This was interesting. We saw several vendors that were selling these systems, these rack systems that are all prefabbed, metal plastic, fairly substantial. I don't know if they would last as much as a solid metal display, but again, substantial enough where they would last a year, 2 years, and be completely easy to, well, fairly easy to assemble, pop up, and then be completely skinned with signage, whether that's corrugated on a thin level or various other SBS type of materials. Interesting. It was just interesting to see several vendors producing and pitching these solutions. I think, boy, it's to me a little bit the entire product life cycle has to be thought about. Is having a few corrugated displays better than having one of these, which you still have a lot of signage waste? As you see, there's quite a lot of graphic elements that would go onto this display. And then what do you do with this thing at the end of its lifespan? But it's interesting seeing various solution providers thinking about this. And here's another example of a very flexible modular display that is all metal and again has changeable signs that can be swapped in and out, and shelving can be adjusted, or peg hooks or racking for different types of product assortment. So again, very interesting that we definitely saw a host of manufacturers selling these various type of solutions, and as well those refrigerator type of solutions as well. So as you see in this image, the on the left is the little refrigeration unit, and the rest of that display is a temporary, or I'll say semi-permanent topper that goes onto it and can be changed out frequently for the key product that's on promotion. Some other examples of that that we saw throughout the show of those sort of reskinnable refrigerator units. I don't know if these would be optimal for products that really need to be kept at a refrigerated level, because they're pretty much, these are not insulated. There's no door in front. But again, for those grab and go, those quick items that are going to sell in a day in terms of prep, and you need to be chilled down, or that grab and go drink, very interesting propositions. And then at retail, there we saw one right at a Rewe that's a German grocery store. LED lighting can be plugged right on into it. Again, another one of those wood displays from that modular, sustainable type of aspect of reuse. And then this side cap at a Tesco Express in London. Excuse me. Lost my voice there. So a nice metal display where the side panels can be changed out with messaging for the promotion that's going on. And then from a corrugated perspective, this display, again, in a German grocery store, had all sorts of different slots. This was a spring Easter display that could have a host of configurations for shelving and peg hooks, even in the side, as you see here, for the decals, that all come together and create from one structure a multitude of merchandisers. So what we took from this is very interesting to see the various systems that are out there. What's the potential? Think about reusability without a doubt. It kind of flows from the greens trend and sustainability. But overall, what's the entire economy of the system? Does it all really work out with what you're doing to do a very careful analysis on the entire life cycle of what's going to come to fruition through that solution. So something we definitely continue to monitor and continue to look into and understand. And as we dialogue with our customers, what are the right applications for solutions like that? The next trend I want to talk about is process. And very interesting, as we walked the show, we saw so many booths have their process. In this case, a whole almost chemistry experiment of how this lighting company would design the right setup for a retailer. This particular merchandising company literally had a wall that was their process that talked through design, production. They literally had pipes that connected these and gears, which actually rotated and moved to showcase how they went about developing their solutions. In this case, a manufacturer highlighting this is how we think, talking about their mission and what they do. A whole booth, all the activations in their booth, they literally had cut down the middle so you could see all the innards and what went into this activation, how it was constructed, and then even the various hashtags of what is behind the magic. So just saw loads of this at the show. And then, yes, we would see this at retail, all flowing from that macro trend of people wanting to understand what's behind the product. What is the company behind the product? What's the ingredients inside the company, inside the product? So in this case, Rituals, a retailer in the old town of Dusseldorf, highlighting what they are about on their storefront window. Fresh, which is the Harrods brand for some of their natural skincare, again from their merchandising perspective, kind of showcasing old chemistry type of units, and inside some of those natural ingredients like the rose for rose hips and etc. that go into the various products. And then as well at Neal's Yard in London, again a skincare company that has a flagship store there, highlighting on their wall their mission, what they are about. So it is about what is your story, what is your purpose, and the values of your company, or what is behind and inside your product, and make sure that that can stand out even in the retail environment. Trend 5 is lighting. We talked about this trend at the last EuroShop we were at, and continue to hit this up again because it is just magical, the various things that are being done with LED lighting, especially since the power is, you don't need nearly as much power, although a giant wall like this that's almost a video wall with these timed off to create whimsical patterns to just command shopper attention will definitely take a lot of power. But in other applications, again, these LED ropes don't take loads of power. Oops. It also, not just the roping and those screens, even backlit panels. As you see here, as we were checking out the various displays, this display just looked like marble. You could just felt like you should touch it and be there. As you could see, pulling back the curtain, it literally is a printed fabric over this bright LED backlit panel. Here's some other examples where just the nature of the lighting and the printed fabric made these elements look three-dimensional. Something that just was just stood out as you walk by. And then as you see on the right is literally again highlighting these panels that can even be timed to fire to change color or create motion behind these printed fabric panels. Just, I think we're going to see more and more of that capability brought to life in ways that are just going to be impressive in how they can command shopper attention. Another lighting element that was just amazing to see was this one company, and there were several that were doing it, but they all kind of had their patented different ways of creating filters in front of the LED to create, again, these differentiated looks. So these are all normal LED strips, straight up and down, but with fabric that's specially woven that diffuses and diffracts the light to create these great patterns, even in front of mirrors, as you see in the center image. And then just a variety of ways to light shelves so the product pops and isn't hidden and dark underneath things. In fact, this particular manufacturer creates these wonderful units where the LED is just powered by the brackets as they get set into the back wall. All low voltage, so there's no safety concerns, but creates the lighting that just helps the product stand out. And then, you know, we've seen some of those video on shelf lips, in this case, really sharp, where they've integrated it beautifully into the construction. Few others in displays, the Jameson with the lighting, popping kind of the green with the green bottles, the Bridgestone highlighting their logo, or even, and we've seen this in the US, you know, the lightsabers. But what we all, you know, smiled when we saw this was done very inexpensively, where there wasn't a lot, just the strip of LEDs and literally the half round piece of plastic in front to just create the lightsaber. Not finished, you know, beautifully, but gets the job done. And at retail, in this case, Razer, that gaming company, has a flagship in London, nicely utilizing LEDs from the green, highlighting their brand, but then as well kind of backlighting that information strip right on the top of the cabinets. And then Harrods, that uplit underlighting with the exclusive sign just makes anything look exclusive. A few other examples of beauty products really highlighted with that back wall and really helps pop the product. But even from, we talk beauty high-end, but even toothbrushes here at a Rossmann, which is kind of like a drugstore type of store as well, that again, utilizing back panel lighting to highlight key claims, images of families and people all around, creating that emotional connection. And then this one was really sharp. Again, in a small grocery store in their movie section with DVDs, this metal die cut to create that film strip edge, and that was lit with red LED to, again, create that attraction point, but really combining the idea of die cut metals with LED. So it's about utilizing lighting to command attention. There's many new ways to differentiate as various options continue to be innovated around. And much like that film strip example, think about how lighting can tell the story instead of just being lighting for lighting's sake. Experience is the next one. And obviously no presentation on trends should miss the trend of shopper experience and creating those ways to tell stories with the shopper. This booth was just kind of fun, where it had all of the gigantic gym balls there that they can sit on, bounce on, and kind of engage with their team. I am going to skip over the next video. It's a phenomenal one. So if you do get I think I did leave that video clip in the attachment to the webinar that highlights this video wall that is full of, it's a wall touch screen, so you can literally, it's for ghost bikes. You can touch on areas of where the bike is, which is literally there in 3D behind the touch screens. So they're transparent screens. You can see the bike, touch on areas to learn features and benefits. It'll play videos. It will, as it cycles through, will literally block the bike entirely with images and videos, but then shows through. Really, this engaging experience. Very high end, very expensive. We also smiled when we saw this example of a window that just via lighting and a screen print could do a variety of things in a similar way of popping an image, but then also allowing that to be transparent where you can then see through, where it's just done with print and lighting to create that look rather than this super high-end video screens. And then on a little smaller scale, this L'Oreal display, nicely lit, obviously to highlight the product, but that little diorama box where there's product inside is again a transparent video screen in front of those products that provides motion, commands attention. When you get up closer, can tell the story behind the products and allow them to show through and provide and highlight features, benefits. A few other examples of what I'll say projection. So both of these examples, the jacket and the sneaker, are models, white or one color. And in this case, a projector overlays either colors and models. So for the sneaker, you can try and see different things, try different options out or different styles and colorways. Or on the jacket, it highlighted different features that jacket provides in terms of its insulation, in terms of its zipper, in terms of its waterproof, etc. All around that is visually projected. And I'm not going to show the video because I'm just don't want to necessarily bog down the system. But again, these couple of videos, I'm pretty certain I left on the handout. And then just from a sheer size and scope, creating that whole look of the action figure that's larger than life. Well, I'm actually, it is playing the video there slightly there, but maybe that's coming across of how that jacket almost kind of highlights and plays through, the features that zips and unzips and kind of the technical graphics come on and highlight what's in that jacket. We'll skip ahead. A few other fun examples that we saw. And the first one is a coffee cup that literally steamed, supersized, and also would emit the scent of the coffee. Again, really drawing you to the display, wanting you to pick up a bag of coffee to bring home. In this case, a Jameson display, really a little bit probably intricate, but the idea here is you see the video monitor, it would engage with messaging, ask you to download an app, which you would get a code, QR code, and scan. There's actually a camera in this unit that would give you a shot. So I guess the payout's pretty good, a shot of Jameson. So it would make up a potential person that's engaged with this to actually take and go through all the steps. But just that whole thinking process around trial, engagement. This Coke display, if you notice in the top by the cap, actually has a fan. So as you walk by, you feel that whoosh, that bit of air that provides that feeling of refreshment. A few other ones, again, at Harrods in the wine section, for the various notes of the high-end wine, you kind of see all those little almost trumpet-like pieces. Those are actually, you can squeeze a little, looks like a old bike horn and you would get a whiff of the odor of those key notes that they're trying to highlight in the various wines. From a book display, this fancy, you can have just plain book racks, or if you're going to have Tintin, why not make it look like his rocket? And then in Harrods, for some of their headphones, creating this almost sound booth style with the felting for soundproofing, where you can listen to these headphones. But as well, what's kind of cool is they put the mirror there so you can see what you look like, because you're going to be wearing these out. It's part of your fashion statement, so engage with it. And Harrods also, the gigantic high-end test kitchen, so you can try the various gear that they're selling, or more likely that they're going to have someone there that's demoing the various small appliances, and then you try and taste the food and obviously say, I need one of these at home, whether you'll really use it or not. And then there's again, from Razor, the first level at street level was all of their gear, and underneath, you walked on down, they had a whole gaming room where you could try it out real time at the high end video games and see the performance of their equipment real time. So think about retail, and obviously now we're all in the zone of COVID-19 and stay at home, and people are all ordering, spending as little time as they can at retail. But once it reopens up, it's a key brand touch point. Retail is going to enable the physical store, the shopper, to engage with your product in ways they can't online. So utilize that to engage their senses. And it's a way, pull all of these various trend elements together to really tell your brand story. So we're going to hit to the last trend here quickly. It is about smart. And again, we saw smart in the beginnings of it 3 years ago. We see this in various things in the US, but I will say the presence of smart displays was just jumped at EuroShop. Now, that said, is there one solution that was like magical that said, I got to bring this back and this is going to be the cure-all? No. But that said, it was amazing to see that dozens of companies, and dozens probably closer, getting to, above 4 or 5 dozen companies, all tinkering with ways to make their displays smart. The whole idea of engaging with QR codes and what that can create. Voice activation, where assistants can understand shoppers and engage them much like Alexa can. Smart shelves, where with cameras, it can literally understand inventory levels and what people are engaging with. As you can see, the monitor up top and the monitor to the left would be seen in the retail back store to understand what's going on. The shopper just sees this beautiful shelf. Another example of it with out of stock detection, as I mentioned, no perfect solution. As I chatted with this person, how well does the camera catch the bottom shelf? And they said, well, the bottom shelf isn't, that's with product that doesn't necessarily sell as well, so we're not as concerned about it. And you scratch your head, you go, okay, but again, in a holistic solution, not quite there. Another engagement where with a tablet and a touch screen, being able to light up the various products that are then selected, because if somebody kind of goes, I'm going to have this for dinner, the touchscreen helps select the wine and then highlight the wine by underlining it. Another way to potentially measure engagement with laser curtains. Safe, this is much like the technology it's used to open an automatic door at a grocery store, but in this case, calibrated so it knows where on the planogram or on the shelf the shoppers are reaching in and out with the most. And we talk about all of these. Here was an example actually in Heathrow, a whole almost augmented reality where you played, kicked, and scored and won the potential to go to a Premier League game. So all sorts of fun, engaging things. And as well, a host of displays trying to utilize scales to measure inventory and quantities that are on them for produce, for product, et cetera. So seeing loads of different technology pieces being brought together. So what I'd say is this is rapidly advancing over the last couple of years. There's a lot of players trying loads of different stuff out to either gather data on their products, selling, how well it's doing on shoppers, and also, as you saw in the wine example, to personalize the experience. So lots of different stuff going on here that I think we've got to continue to keep a very close eye on. And I'm going to continue to track that very closely and work with our teams about what may be some of the best technologies we should be piloting. So with that, we've hit about the 45-minute mark. If anybody has any questions, please pop them into the system here. Just a couple of other great images we saw. This was a cool little Grolsch display. That was the guitar, kind of right there, and nicely held a case of Grolsch beer. Maybe not the highest capacity unit, but again, really sharp and cool. Again, utilizing a variety of materials. In this case, probably more the e-cigarette vaping trend, but just the use of materials, angles, curves. In this case, a corrugated display that had some cool looks, feels very clean, very neat, but again, provided a variety of platforms and different lines for the shopper to engage with. Some lighting and video to again highlight beauty products. And this was just a cool, fun Mentos display where, again, utilizing the supersized package and supersized Mentos to literally be the shelves for the product. So just kind of fun and attention grabbing. So all of those kind of cool things going on at retail. So as we wrap, I want to highlight the 7 key trends that we hit. Finish, texture, think about that to create richness and layers. Green, the color, but probably more importantly, thinking how color connects with cues. In this case, sustainability, freshness. The idea of modular and using systems that, again, potentially could save money and be eco-friendly. Again, but think about doing the whole analysis to make sure it truly is. Process, values, talk about what's in your product, what went into your product, be authentic, be transparent with your shopper. Lighting, again, continued advancements of ways lighting can be used to command attention and tell your brand story. We have already hit up experience and the critical nature of utilizing the space at retail to be a great brand touch point and that entry into your brand. And then smart. The future is there. There's a lot of technologies being experimented with. It's going to continue to advance. And we're kicking around what are some of those ways that technology can efficiently and effectively drive business results. So with that, I want to thank everybody for being on today's webinar. As mentioned, there is the handout if you want to grab that, or you'll get an email this afternoon. You can respond to that to get certain elements, because the piece that I've put online is probably low resolution. So if you want any images that are a little bit better, let me know, reach out. Secondly, please provide any feedback, because that's only gonna make these webinars better in the future. And third, please don't hesitate to further engage. There was a host of great stuff we saw in Europe. If you have and want to bounce off ideas, thoughts, etc., I'm definitely here. Our team's excited to think of creative ways that we can apply these trends to the business challenges that you have. So again, I want to thank you very much for your time today. Everybody stay safe and healthy, and I look for you in the future at other webinars we're going to be hosting in the upcoming months. Thank you very much.